Hello guys, and we're back for another video on TypeScript. And today's topic will be types. Let's hit it. So by now you should be able to create your own TypeScript files. If you haven't looked at the previous videos and this is your first video, so creating a new file in VS Code, you go there, new file, give it a name, and then you give it a .ts extension. So like this one, the name is types and the extension is TS. So we spoke about why we should use TypeScript and what TypeScript is in our previous videos, but we actually haven't been using any TypeScript really. We've been using mostly JavaScript, which is like we said in the previous video, TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript. So everything JavaScript is TypeScript. So now this is where TypeScript shines. So when we start actually using the types. So now I've only spoken about the string type, which is but I actually haven't explained to you what it is. So it's not so let me declare a string here. Program TypeScript, and it says it's a string here. So what is this thing? String. So I would say it's like a combination of characters. So it's like a string of characters. You see, I think that's where it comes from. I'm not actually sure, but it makes sense to me that way. So a string of characters is a string type. So, and you, for you, in order to be able to declare a string, you need double quotes around your characters or your string of characters. So they represent text, and in the quotes you can have numbers. You can actually have, like now, TypeScript 123. It's still a string. If I do that, it's 123. It's still a string because it's within quotes. Now we have I'll explain more on this. We have another type, which is number, which I think should make sense. So I can call it, let me just call it num equals to 123. These two things are different. So if you look at, if I have on program it says string, if I have on num it says number. So what's happening here is TypeScript is using types implicitly. I didn't actually tell it what the type is. It sees from the value of the variable what the type is. But you can actually be more explicit with this. So like now, if I go I'll call it E program for meaning explicit, and to tell TypeScript what type this is here, I put a colon there and I tell it the type of the thing, and then I can give it a value there, TypeScript, right, which is of type string. Normally you don't have to be explicit if you're actually defining it like that, because TypeScript is smart enough to know that, okay, this is actually of type string because of the value you gave to it on your right hand side, which is this guy here. But where it's more important, let's say you have some logic in your code. Let me just say this is forward 2 double slashes means a comment in the code. The compiler doesn't actually read this as as part of the code. It's just when you want to leave nodes for yourself and things like that. So I'm going to leave this here. So I'm going to say some logic here. So you have some logic there that you want to find what this thing actually is. So this logic here changes this guy, changes program, and then it changes the value and things like that. So now, but you don't actually know what the value of this thing is beforehand, but you know what type it should be. So in this case, you can say, okay, I know what this thing how this thing should work. I'm giving it a type here so that when I do my logic over here with some code, I will actually know what type it is, and Typescript will tell me, okay, if I'm using it wrong, I'm using it as a number, or if I'm using it as a string, it will not complain, but if I'm using it as a number, it will complain. So now, to explain further, so implicit types here, these two are implicit types, and here enum, which is actually funny because there is a keyword called enum in TypeScript, which we'll get to see later. So enum, which in this case I mean explicit number. So I'm going to actually tell it what type it is there. So these two, string, we have string and we have number as as two of our basic types. There's more. So we'll get to see those in a bit. Now, so this enum and program, we have explicitly given them types. So now, if I go enum, nope, enum here equals to 1. Typescript is okay with that. And then if I go enum equals to let me say 1. What does it say there? Type 1 is not assignable to type number. So it's saying type 1 here because it treats it as a special type, which we'll get to later. Now, this is a bit more advanced, so we'll get to the explanation of that later in the series. So bear with me. So now it's complaining. So this should essentially say, this is the same as saying type string is not assignable to type number, because this side we have a value of a string, but here we told TypeScript that this is a number. So it complains. Same thing if we were to change this guy over here. So if I was to take that guy over here and just go boom, still complains the same way. Type 1 is not assignable to type number, even though we didn't actually tell it what the type is there. But since TypeScript is smart enough to know that the type of this thing here is actually a number, it carries forward the type over there, even though you didn't tell it. So it infers it. So this is called type inference in TypeScript. And there's another type, which is a Boolean. So I'm going to remove this bad one over here. So we have a type Boolean. Let is program would be of type Boolean. So what is a Boolean? So a Boolean is a true and false. So if I want to give this program a value there, I can go. So it can only take two values, which are true and false, which are these keywords here. So you can give it this word true, or I can go again and say this is false. Same thing with what happened here. Let me call this E as program, and I'll replace those there, and then I'll do another one there. Let is program equals to true. Nope, true. And then still doesn't complain. I have on it, it tells me it's a Boolean, and then I have on that Boolean, told it is a Boolean there. So the E's mean explicit. So these here are explicit types. These here have implicit types. So yeah, I think that should explain the basic types that we have in TypeScript. We have two more, which are null and Boolean. We have null and undefined. So what null is something that has no value. So which is not as that useful on its own. So we have a type of let's call it empty, and then we can say it's of type is equals to null. So null is it's okay. That was weird. What? Ah, I see why. I know why. So actually, let me explain this. So I'm hovering on top of this. It's saying empty is of type any. Same thing if I go type. Let me actually call it no value, and type not defined equals to undefined. So I'm hovering on this, it says type any. I'm hovering on that, it says type any. These actually have this type. This has type null, and this has type not undefined. But the reason TypeScript is saying this is an any type is because these two types are actually subsets of all types. So all types in the type system are of type null and undefined. So if you look at this guy here, right? I said program is of type string. So if I try to change program here and go program equals to null, it shouldn't actually complain. So, but this guy is still of type string. Since this guy is a subset of all types in TypeScript, it is inferred as of type any. And same with this guy over here. So I can still say program equals to undefined. So same thing there. The type of this program did not change because this, as much as this guy is of type undefined, it is also of type string, and it's also of type number, and it's also of type Boolean. So if I go is program equals to null, or is program equals to undefined, but I can't say is program equals to 1, 2, 3. It complains. So now is program there says, oh, I'm of type Boolean, and you're giving me the value of 1, 2, 3, which is a number. So you cannot do that. So what this is saying is all types in TypeScript, actually null is a subset of all types in TypeScript, and not an undefined is also a subset of all types in TypeScript. I hope I explained that well, and if you need more explanations, just comment down below, and hopefully I can explain it better with respect to your question. Yeah, this was a very hard topic to kind of explain. I think it will become more second nature when you actually start using it, choosing the types and things like that. Maybe I'll also start giving some exercises to work on in the near future. So after we've hit the basics out the way, we can start doing that. Yes, sir.